next guest spent 2 decades on the radio waves, supercharging us with his energetic style. He has graced the biggest of stages across the world as one of the most respected hype men, a media personality in his own right. We can't wait to know what's next for Do2dtun Kayode. But I like to give him a hype intro, so I'll call D to the O to the T to the U to the N. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, here on Rubbin'minds, we have D2dtun, Dr. Energy God.
You already know.
How did I do?
I'll give you a 7 for that.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here on Rubbin'minds. 2 decades on the radio waves, like you came in with fresh energy, supercharged things, unmissable. We miss you on the radio.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm just curious, like 2 decades, what was it like? Because the media landscape has changed, and of course we want to know what you're up to, your plans. So let's go back to when it all started. Why radio?
So the thing is, I mean, first I want to give that reckoning to my dad, because I mean, I grew up in a home where TV shows and radio shows were very prominent. I used to listen to Voice of America by Shaka Zali. I was on the radio, and then I started to listen to AM radio. But that was also something that I'm going to give it to my dad, because, you know, there was never power. And then the first thing he does, he buys you a transistor radio. And then I picked it up. I mean, I listened to a lot of shows. Likes of Tokwe Brown, rest in peace, Stephen Sleek Cattery, who was popular on Raypa at the time. I listened to him, and he was doing a type of show called, what we call in the category of social commentary, where you're talking about music, lifestyle, and then you can back announce, you can talk about what's popping, what's not, and relate it with the music and art and life. And I said, you know, I want to pick this. So for me, you know, unknowingly, my dad, he buys me a transistor radio, and then for every time I listen to the radio, I sleep. While I'm sleeping, the radio is on. But I wasn't sure I was going to pick that up. But then, going to school, because I don't want to go into a long story, but the fact is, somebody who I respect a lot, is so rest in peace, Mr. Nzeribe, he was actually the president of APCON at the time. He used to see me in class. I thought I was very witty. He gave us one of those projects, and then I did the voiceovers on it. You know, when you do a proper advert campaign, and he just looked at me one day and said, I see that you're very witty in class. I see you sometimes dancing downstairs with your friends, but you always get engaged with a lot of people. I think you'd be pretty good on radio. I'm like, oh, that'd be nice. And then the first radio station, he gave me 3 options. He gave me, I don't want to mention because but he gave me 3 options. And the radio station I worked in all my life through it was one of those radio stations, and that was Cool FM. And then I just walked in as an intern, walked through all the roads. You know what I mean? The roads. You know, a time when somebody walked into the studio and interviewed me and told me and said, oh, he put the cameras there. And I said, you see, the same place you put those cameras used to be my bed. Wow. So, you know, when you are...
So were you a studio rat? Like...
I was completely a studio rat. And then, you know, the thing is, you bought up for the biggest broadcasters. So internship is not the same as it used to be. And that's why, for me, passion, that's what built my passion into having a job that intentionally I made it my hobby. And because whatever you do that's a hobby makes you happy. And it was easy for me to just pick that up. And truthfully, like I said, I think mine was divine. I'm going to give that to God. At the same time, I'm also going to say shout out to the friends that pushed me at the time, my parents as well, and my alma maters and people that I looked up to. Because, you know, these days people say, when you say I look up to someone, they feel, oh, we have to be in the same room. For example, I've never met Michael Jackson, but I love to dance, but he inspired me. I don't have to mentor you or take you through the room to get you there. But there are a lot of people we look up to or we never met. So, I mean, shout out to those people as well. And that's how I picked it up. Likes of, you know, Howard Stern, Dan Foster, so rest in peace.
Like, when I think about my childhood, radio was a companion. Maybe the Nigerian factor, or you're out on the road and you tune in. And I remember Dan Foster, Lakeside, Olisa. We could go on.
Absolutely,
and I mean,
tons.
you have Bemi, I mean, you have Mashe. I can call so many names, but it's not the same now. Is radio dying? Is it too crowded? Don't we have the same level of talent? Or have people all moved to podcast and TV, and the radio art form is no longer regarded as that place where you have the best of the best? Because these are people we looked up to growing up. The evening airwaves, Shola Thompson.
Exactly.
Let me just hold myself.
In a football team, you see that Ronaldo is playing for a club now, but he's actually one of the oldest players in there. I think the biggest problem with radio now are the handlers. Once they feel like they're in a demographic that a lot of, companies, most companies do not even listen to this platform. They depend on what you give them as a brief and say, oh, we're in that space. So sometimes they put money in your station, just think you're just in their own demographic, based on what you're trying to, engage. And then when they see this type of money coming in, they just focus on that and forget programming. The truth about radio right now is it's not all about you having to nurture kids or people who think, oh, I have to go to school and study this. You put radio with people who don't even have any type of experience. So let me just tell you
is it an all-comers affair? Anybody can just get on the mic, speak an American accent?
With what's going on now, right, it's looking like that. Because, for example, if you're just a TikToker or you just have numbers on social media and maybe you go on
reality show
or whatever it is, the first thing is, anybody could be, but you have to also learn through, the ropes. So you get better when you get on it. But now the fact that the handlers are more concerned about how to just make money and what they can get so quickly, because it's not monopoly anymore. The competition is crazy, but also they've left that box where you have core programming, where people look forward to want to listen to something or look forward to someone. And then sometimes you realize that even the owners compete with the people who are the subjects. For example, if I'm a big guy and I'm pushing all the weight and pushing everything to grow the platform, all you need to do is support me to get to the next level. But it's hard for them because sometimes they're competing with you, or sometimes, they're not doing the right things to get you there. Look at the conversation on salaries and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes what they make, you can't equate it with what they pay people. So sometimes it doesn't just work. So with all of that, they're looking for the next person who says, you know what, I have numbers, but I just want to add this to whatever I'm doing. It's, oh, no, don't worry. And then you see the likes of the best guys who can do it and not in the place anymore. Even in the football team, what he means is that you also have to be able to infuse the guys who have done it in the system. But then at the end of the day, you are the ones, you're always against them, or you're not giving them the right platform to grow or to even nurture somebody else like them, And then for someone like me who had so much passion, and I still left it anyways. Because
Why?
The truth is, I got to a point where I felt like I was done. There's no need to prove anymore. And
what about your loyal listeners, the people who tuned in for you? Don't we matter? Aren't we part of the conversation?
You do, but the thing is, I can move that energy into something else. Crazily, this might sound crazy, podcast is a new radio now. So the thing is, you're seeing that people see tools, baby, we're all moving into other things like that. I'll probably never think in my lifetime I'll probably do a podcast, but sometimes I feel I have a lot to say. I feel I have so much of, I can punch so many things, and besides, there are not so many restrictions to be able to be myself. Aside the fact you have to deal with NBC, you also have to deal with management. You also have to deal with the other people as well. There's too much gatekeeping, right?
So do you feel like you're in a straitjacket on radio, and a podcast is a form that allows you to be yourself?
So the fact is, even on radio, I was a lot like myself. But, aside the restriction, I'm just saying, there's prospect for whatever you're doing. Sometimes you get to a point. I also wanted a space where I have other kids come in and do their own thing. I think in my own way, I've been able to nurture the type of people that should be there. If you don't take that as your yardstick, then that's on you. So I think 20 years of doing that, if I were going to speak to myself as a younger self, I would have said I would have done it for 10 years. But the truth is, for you to make that much impact in a space like that, it requires a number of years to be able to do that. So, and that's why I spent this number of years. But the truth is, for the listeners, I can take them somewhere else. And maybe you never know, maybe one of these days I might be one of the king of podcasts. And that's one of the levels I'm looking at, because I'm launching 2 podcasts. people have pushed me, and I think it's the right time for me to do that.
I mean, we're hearing the happy ending, 20 years. We had the beginning, studio rat, but in between that journey, there were ups and downs, valleys and peaks. So can you go back to maybe some of those challenges and how you were able to surmount them? Because there are people who are going to be watching and thinking, I want to be like you, and I still believe in radio, and what do I need to do better? Like you said to your younger self, how were you able to manage those challenges?
So first of all, this might be a very honest point of view, and I know not everybody's going to see it like this, but I will. Not because I do not care, but the fact is, I think we're in a space where we need to speak the truth. Do2dtun is someone who did what I did for the passion. If you're not coming into that space and think you're going to make all the money in the world, your heart will be broken, because if you're not the type who can use your platform to build something for yourself, you're going to be heartbroken a lot of times. I've seen a lot of people come into the business and they realize they think it's fame, but it doesn't equate to the money that you will have. Because truthfully, one of the reasons why I thought about I wanted something that for myself was when I said, I can't be in a space like this. What makes me different from everybody else? What can make me more money than what I'm doing? And that was where I found hype. But bless radio for giving me the platform to be able to figure myself, because I built that on the radio and I took it out. And now, as you can see, it's a commercial success. Now, the truth is, that's the part people don't really say.
That you don't get paid, or your old salaries, or it's not as great.
It's not as great talking about remuneration. It's great as a platform to grow, meet people, and to go. The truth is, even meeting people, that's money. So I'm also saying that's the grace the radio is going to give you. If you're ready for that, then you can take that plunge. But the truth is, it's not a money-giving type of career. It's just placing you in the right place to make that money for yourself. And like I already said, it only now depends on where you're positioned in an establishment like that, because if you're not well positioned, it's not going to be all fun and games. Now, the truth also is, which was great for me, is getting to that same level of where I wanted to get to. You have to walk through it. For example, you find people on radio stations who just get on the microphone in 3-6 months. That shouldn't be the case. You should learn your music, work in the music department, work in news, learn how to record and voiceovers production, But nowadays, if you're not ready to do that, that will be a problem for you. If you want to go on radio because you want to be a superstar, that will be a big problem for you. If you want to go on radio because you want to make an impact, that's good for you. If you want to go on radio because you want to make an impact, and at the end of the day you want to make money, it's good. But truthfully, the money will not come at the time that you expect it to come. It would take time.
Now let's look at some of the controversies in your career, like the steamy details. Like, can you point to one, like, where it could almost have made or marred your career? Like that story, that experience.
To be honest, there are tons of, and I would not say basically that would mar, for every time whatever you do, there is a clear caught in what you're doing, and you realize that, in things that you do, there also hazards in the job as well, but for me, it was not just because I did something wrong. Sometimes I do something right, and then it's seen as wrong, right? For example, so rest in peace, Goldie, which sometimes I feel like I've never really touched on that, but I'll be writing my book called Do Not Believe the Hype, and I'm going to be pointing out so many things in there. Goldie, I was doing my job, but Goldie came into the studio because I knew her before, but I had to do my job. Even the things I knew that was personal to her that was showed up on the show, people couldn't even place their hands on. I knew that before she went on the show, but I had to do my job. So that was one of the first interviews that she walked out. It was kind of, with the fans and everybody didn't like that, and tons like that. Different types of interviews that I've done, some because they expect me to be friends, and then it's not the same way. But truthfully, I think majorly would be the one that probably happened because of my conversation and my journey is the one that happened with the family thing, which I don't really want to talk about. But to be honest, the fact is that's even personal. On my job, for everything I've done, is the right thing based on the job, satisfying the people that employed you and satisfying the craft and the norms of the craft.
Yes, it's
but
work.
Also, exactly. But in the course of it, I've also built enemies as well.
Yeah, as expected. If you're going to do your job well, it comes with the tearing. So final question will be, you mentioned the book, you mentioned 2 podcasts. What else for the Energy Guard? Okay,
so the thing is, I mean, lately I picked up a few scripts as a waka pass.
Okay,
but I think I also picked things based off on the idea. And shout out to Toya C. She made the first AI film called Make Mason. I was in that, and I liked the projection of it. What the idea, what he was telling, introducing something very different to children and kids in the wards about AI. There's a film about it, and because of how it was shot in Nigeria, I was part of that. Whether or not I had just 1 or 2 scenes there, I don't care.
Oh, okay.
But it also means that I'm also looking at movies. There was one also about dance that was also by Unlimited LA. So I might be picking up a few scripts in film. But majorly, I'm starting something that will be unconventional. That's my rave, my type of rave. My podcast coming out soon, my book coming out too as well. And listen, you know, Energy God will always be, I'll still be rocking all the parties. That one is not going anywhere.
We wish you all the best. Sounds all amazing. Thank you so much, Do2dtun Kayode.
Thank you very much.